and gentlemen, welcome to Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. I'm your host, Mark Riccadonna, and with me, as always,
Richie Byrne.
today
What?
we got an amazing special guest, one of the best guests we could get
At this price range.
at our price range. This is as good as it gets, folks. Joining us today, the amazing Tony Walker.
Yeah. So who do you think he was talking about?
I thought he was making a joke of that it was you guys. I don't know.
No. You're our special guest because we didn't get one.
Yeah, special, but for meaning of the word special.
It was either you or the guy cleaning governors right now. We were going to grab him and bring him in. So
Is it the nut guy?
no, I'm joking. Nut's nutty. I love nut.
Kenny's here actually working on some. You've been very lucky. Kenny's working on some electrical lines. He knocked out the air conditioning, fixed it 5 minutes before you got here. It was a sauna in here.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
We would have had a sweaty Richie Byrne.
Like you've never had that before.
So we're going
What kind of laugh was that? I don't know what that was.
I'm going through a lot of shit right now. And it's just, this acting class is killing me.
This is going to be an amazing episode, as long as Richie doesn't talk about acting.
I'm doing that monologue on Tuesday in the class. The one you don't know what that's from?
The one I sent.
The one you sent me about the guy jumping off the high dive.
Yeah, it's called The Life and Times of the Thunderbolt Kid by Bill Bryson.
Okay, hold on. It's a play?
No, it's a memoir, this guy's memoir of his childhood.
Really?
It was just, dude, I listened to him read it live at a reading when he was promoting the book, and I was laughing so hard I was pissing myself. I was like, this is a good monologue, like for an actor.
Well, it's interesting because I'm going to try and play it serious.
Yeah?
Because I don't want to walk in and do all that.
You don't want to be a comedian going in and doing a funny monologue.
Yeah, and I read it and I read it, Mark, and I go, okay, yeah, I could put inflection here, and I know I'll get a laugh, and I could do this, and I know, and I'm like, I don't know that I want to do that, and I gave it a lot of thought. I'm trying memorizing. It's really fucking hard. I'm not. It's really hard. But as I'm moving along with it, I'm creating a scenario. And at first I thought, because you had told me something about you saw a guy do it and he was in bed with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what if he's at first I'm like, what if he's at a psychiatrist's office? So he's telling his psychiatrist the story. But I kept, because he's talking about the high dive and all that, I want him to be looking like he sees everything he's talking about.
Yeah.
But I keep thinking that then he'd look down to talk to the person that he's talking to also, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm going, I swear to God, Mark, it's amazing how this is why I love acting so much. So I'm going, well, I feel like when I look down, I don't want to have to focus to one place every time. Like, I feel like it's gonna look phony. So I started thinking about a group. So what I came up with? It hit me the other night. And I'm like, oh, this is great. He's a trucker from, some suburbs of Chicago. And he's gotten his third DWI. And he's in an inpatient treatment center because he doesn't want to go to jail. And he doesn't talk. He's just there trying to get through. He doesn't believe he's an alcoholic. He's just trying to get, his time. And he's been there about 2 weeks. And the whole time he's said as little as possible. He doesn't want to get involved. He's just trying. So and I keep building on it. So the therapist says, hey, we're always talking about horrible moments, like, waking up in your own vomit, whatever the hell, hitting some kid in
bottom.
and they go, I want everyone to tell me a great day in their life, something great. So and he doesn't want to do it. So this is all, but I haven't even started the monologue. And I'm like, so he wants to just go out and smoke a cigarette. That's all he wants to do is go smoke a cigarette. So at one point, the therapist says to him, if you tell the group a story, you can leave and smoke a cigarette. So I'm going to like start the whole thing with me with a cigarette in my mouth and then sit down almost angry and just tell the story seriously. Get up, walk over, because you know it, walk over to the door, put the cigarette back in my mouth with a lighter and go, that was the best day of my life, which I think is funny because he's talking about this guy who's obviously in terrible pain. You know what I mean? I just think it's a cool, and you know who you're going to laugh. You know who I'm basing the character on? Gaffigan. Because he's the Midwest, and all I hear, I could just see Jimmy. You know what I mean? Like, so he's on the high dive. You know how Jim has that inflection and everything? So,
dude, when the author read it, as like, you know, one of the snippets that he would read during the it was, you know, at a Barnes and Noble, and when he read it, he didn't play it to be funny. He knew it was going to get laughs, but he did it because he seriously hated this kid because he was such a dork. And the fact that his father completely embarrassed him, it was like the greatest thing in the world.
Oh, so this is the father of a kid, Mr. Milton.
Yeah,
is his
they were both little kids at the summer camp,
right?
And the Bill, the writer, is, you can pretty much, he's a nerd. He's like a bookworm type. But this other kid was even more nerdy, so he loved picking on him.
Which, you know, it makes me laugh. Like you say that a nerd found an even bigger nerd to bully. Yeah. Like, he wasn't like, I always laugh when people go, we need to get rid of bullying in this country. And we're never getting rid of bullying. So we need to come up with another way of doing this. To go, it's what kids do. It's unfortunate and it's horrible now with the internet. I mean, I can't believe I'm going on this tirade, but the idea of going, you know, we can fix bullying. You can't fix bullying. Bullying's been going on since Jesus. You know,
I mean, it's unfortunate. I watch like my kids playing football now, and I kind of watch, like, you can see the kids who are really good and they're not. It's funny, the kids who are actually really good aren't jerks. They're just good at football. But then there's a layer under the really good kids of the kids that are older that are kind of you can see them bullying the kids who don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And my kid's one of the kids who don't know what's going on, but he's a first year, but he's as big as the second year kids.
Okay.
So they don't pick on him too much, because like the one kid was kind of doing all this like bravado bullshit to him. And then my son beat him in a race, and he's like, you cheated. And the kid started crying because it was like, I went to bully this kid and he beat me.
Yes. And we're talking about 7, 8-year-olds, right?
Yeah. They're 7,
it's
8,
just ingrained in kids. It's just,
yeah. You know, I mean, it's the moment, especially if they're a younger brother, they got bullied by their older brother. So then they come to practice and go, wait, I can do what my brother does to me to this kid.
Right.
Next thing you know, like, there's a bully created.
But you know, going back to the monologue, where'd you go? Going back.
Hold on 1 second. My dog stole a pen.
We'll fix this in post.
No, we won't.
Well, we say we will, but then Tony gets lazy.
We've been saying we're going to fix this in post since we started, like 3 years ago.
Yeah, but now we mean it.
I just think it's some of the best parts. That's all.
Well, it's funny. The monologue. Going back to the monologue. Can I ask you something? And nobody's going to understand this. We can cut it if you want.
Well, no, we can explain it while we answer it.
He says in the monologue, he says, far out on the lake, there was a platform, blah, 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 which had a high dive. And then he says, so after the egg timer dinged our liberation, and I don't know what that means.
I think that was something to do with the summer camp.
So once the egg timer went off, you were allowed to like do what you wanted to do. Maybe.
I think it was that, or it was after you're done eating.
Okay.
You know, like you're not allowed to swim for 20 minutes after you eat.
Oh, okay. All right. There you go.
I'm almost
like
positive that's what it was.
Okay. All right. What were we talking? Oh, we were talking about, but I'm in this class, and it's funny, Mark. Like, I haven't taken a class in a long. The last class I took, Greg Vaccarello was in it. I'll tell you what, he's a great actor.
He is.
Greg is a great actor. He was a big part of the Richie Byrne show when I was doing the variety show. He was always like my Art Carney, whatever he was, and he always got to play and I was kind of jealous of him in my own show because I'm running around producing this goddamn thing, and I got a million things and Greg just has to focus on whatever character he's playing. And
whatever he's playing in the moment.
And he would steal every scene. He was so good. He would steal every scene. But we did an acting class together with a woman named Alice Spivak.
Yeah,
she's tremendous. And we did a scene from chapter 2, Neil Simon. He and and it was the scene where he reads when he goes to Europe, or his wife dies, and he goes to Europe. I think it's the opening of the play. And he gets back after 6 weeks. He took like a sabbatical and his brother picks him up at the airport. I played his brother, drops him home. When he gets home, there's a letter from a woman who knew his wife. And he reads the letter, and it's just so powerful. Greg, we rehearsed this thing for a while. And the day we did it in front of the class, after he read it, he looked up at me and he was crying, and he never cried in rehearsal. And he was,
shit.
And I got to admit, it was like, fuck, I wish you would have cried a little bit, because it totally changed me and what I was about to do, which is a good thing. As it was just cool. It was a very cool moment.
Keeps you in the moment.
Yeah, it does.
So like what you're doing, reading this monologue and building the story behind it. I remember in the first year of the acting school we were in, we took, I don't know, the Gettysburg Address or one of those famous speeches. We were supposed to recite just the words of that, but you had to make up why. So I was a guy who was giving a pep talk to his platoon before they went to storm the bad guy fortress. So like we were in we're getting shot at, we're down in a foxhole, and I deliver this speech, but you're not supposed to tell anybody why you're setting it up. So it's like this weird thing where all of a sudden I'm like ducking down behind a thing and I start reading Fourscore. But it's like, but that's a great exercise. Yeah. I absolutely loved learning that, because like you watch a TV show, like certain sitcoms and stuff, and you're always wondering why it's so goofy. And it's because there's no subtext. They just play whatever they're told. Where in real life, you don't.
Right.
In real life, you hide shit.
It takes a long time as an actor to realize that. Like, I can't believe the subtext I now have put behind this stupid little monologue, where when I was 20, I would never have thought to do all that. I would have just done the monologue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and the thing too is everybody watching it doesn't know all the work you put in.
Right.
But if you don't do the work, they know that.
You're right.
So they might not get your whole backstory, and how much shit you put in it, but they'll know it's good. But if you don't do that, they can tell if you don't put the
Right.
work.
I'm
It's a
really glad
very
I'm taking
weird
this
thing.
class.
Dude, you've been so excited talking about it.
Yeah, your name comes up a lot. It does, because a lot of people in the class either have worked with you or know you from the Hannah and Sean's salon
Salon.
we do. And
Yeah.
too, it was weird when I walked in. I walk in and when my first day, you'll love this. My first day, I get to the class and I'm early, and there's a door to the building. You can't get in the door. You just can't get in. It's locked. So I'm standing out there and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'll just wait. And there's a group of young kids and they're all talking. And I'm like, these kids they're really getting on my nerves. They're freaking kids. Why are they here? What are they?
Get off my lawn, you.
And all of a sudden somebody who shows up and opens the door and and I'm going, oh my God, this is the class. I'm 90. I'm like, they're all 23 and all the girls are beautiful, just beautiful. And you're just sitting there going, and at first I'm like, I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know that I don't know if I'm comfortable. And all of a sudden, Mark, like one of them goes, hey, you're the guy from the bar. Hey, you're the guy and they a lot of them had done.
You had to go which bar?
A lot of them had done readings with us at Sweet
Annie.
Annie.
That's awesome.
So that was kind of cool. And one girl actually came up and she goes, oh my God, you're that guy. Like she said that to me. She goes,
you're that guy.
And I go, yeah, I'm that guy. And she goes, we were talking about it. We're really looking forward to learning a lot from you. And I thought, wow,
that's a cool compliment.
It is a cool compliment. And it says a lot to me about Neil, the teacher. Because these kids are really focused and they're really good. And they've been with this class, a lot of them, a long time. And they love Neil. And he's a great teacher. We're going to get him on the show. I really want, his name's Neil Matarazzo. You can look him up if you're listening. He's IMDb him. He's an amazing actor and a great guy. You met him, right? You know him.
Yeah.
And I just, it's so weird too, because he and I are the same age. It's so weird to have it's so weird to have a teacher your age. I've never had a teacher my age. You know what I mean? They're always older. But the one cool thing though, Mark, is that you'll appreciate is he got like, all right, so I go in, I do the first week, and they tell us you have to do this exercise. I'm not going to get into, but you have to do this exercise on your own. And so I end up, me and this other girl are new, and we both have to do the exercise that day. So she's doing it, I'm doing it. And the following week, this girl showed up, really talented girl. This girl showed up with a monologue. So now I show up the following week, and I'm like, all right, I did my exercise, and soon I'll find somebody to work with. And I talked to Jeannie Schwab about doing a scene. So I knew she and I talked about this scene and we were going to do it. We're going to work on it. So it's the second week of class, and I'm sitting there, and this girl gets up who I did the exercise the same day as, and she does a monologue, and she's phenomenal. She was phenomenal. And he's working with her. He's going over it with her and talking to her. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he turns, he goes, when are you going to do something to me? And I go, what? He goes, yo, you got anything going on? Like, what are you just going to sit in the back? And I'm like, it's my second week, Neil. Give me and it hit, but I'm like, I don't have a monologue. I haven't done anything in 20 years. So I immediately texted you and I'm like, dude, I need a monologue. And you sent me this monologue, which it was just so funny. It was like, dude, I just got in the class. But what I've been enjoying is sitting in the back of the room for the last month, watching everybody else work and watching him talk to them and going. And it's been very, because you know how it is. You're the same way. When we get involved in something, we're all encompassing.
Yeah.
When we get involved in it, you're just like me. You take control of everything. And you're good at everything, and people will look. So it's been nice to not be the center of attention. Does that make sense? I
Yeah.
don't mean that with a big head. It's not how I mean it, but it's just
No,
been
I
nice.
know exactly what you mean. It's like, oh, we finally get to be a member of the group instead of the guy in front of the group
Yes.
going, you know.
Yes.
I like when I was with the theater company, it was amazing because it was like, oh, I don't have to lead. I just have to do.
Yes.
Where it's
Yeah.
like when we're on the road as comics, you're the headliner.
You're
Like
the
it's kind
headliner.
of like everybody's looking to you for.
You're the man. And even when you're directing,
Yeah.
when you're producing, it's, you know, when it's your show, when it's the Richie Byrne show, when it's Mark's directing, you know, it's a different beast altogether. So it's been really cool. And I feel like, and I wanted to tell him this, I feel like I got a lot out of the last month, just watching others and soaking it in, you know, and now I spent the last week of my life going nuts trying to learn this stupid monologue that you sent me that's so hard to learn. And I'm doing it Tuesday. I'm laughing. I'm like, man, I've been on TV. I've been at Radio City Music Hall, all alone on the stage at Radio City Music Hall. And I am so scared about this stupid monologue on Tuesday.
I remember being in the theater company, man, and I would work with like these young actors, and I forget I'm old. So I'd be working with them, and like I'd be like, "Do you have any idea of a scene we could do?" And the one girl, Trish, brought this really great scene, and I'm like, "This is really good, but who's going to play the old guy?" Oh, that'd be me.
when I did my after I did my exercise, he talks to you, you know, and he makes you tell the class your background, where you come from, what you've done. And I explained to him, it was funny. I said, I've done comedy, 35 years. And he goes, no, don't do that. Don't do that. He said, that's an accomplishment. And he turned to the kids. He's like, this guy, think about what he just said. For 35 years, he's been working as a stand-up comic. You may have never heard
longer than you guys been alive.
Yeah.
Whoa, we don't have to point out how old
let's not. But at one point I said, and now I'm really trying to get back into acting, and I'm really looking forward to playing all your grandfathers in this class. But they it's interesting, it's such a weird time in my life for because between this and Newport, which we really haven't talked a lot about them. Well, I don't know if we even talked about on the show, on the podcast, but I'm in the middle of writing a musical with a friend of mine. I'm writing the lyrics. Some of the lyrics were written by another friend, and now I've taken over that, but I'm writing the story, and I've never written a story before. And I mean, it's a musical. I don't have to get in depth, but man, you guys, I know you and Vinny Nardiello. And I mean, like, it's so hard to sit at that computer and write.
Last night I had a meeting, a Zoom meeting with the guys from Beer League.
Oh yeah.
And they sent me the scripts and they wanted me to take a sweep on the drafts. And it was like, yeah, no problem. You know what? I'll probably be awake for another couple hours. I could probably knock this out. And then as soon as I turned on the computer, I was like, it's homework.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it, but still, it's still homework.
Yeah. Vinny Nardiello gave me a great, and I haven't really followed it yet, but he gave me great advice. He was like, listen, try and bang out 3 pages a night. That's all you have. He goes, in a month, you'll have 90 pages. He said, don't get overwhelmed by. I was like, wow, what a great way of,
Yeah.
He goes, and most nights you'll do more than 3 pages, but just set your goals to get 3 pages done a night, and it won't feel so overwhelming. And that's great advice.
Yeah.
Jeez. It is easier said than done. Thanks, Tony, for
I've been doing the audience interactive dinner theater shows. I've been doing that for
Right.
almost 30 years. No, it is it. You know, I write them. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
easier said than done to write. I don't care what we're talking about. I don't
It
care
is
if we're-
funny when you're doing it. It's because I've been trying to do it in between everything else, and
right that
and
too. Right, life.
My friend who wrote the music, my buddy Steve Baranski, is like, listen, I don't care. Like, I'm like, hey man, I'm thinking. He goes, I don't care what you do. I wrote the music. I don't want to. I can't get this. Does not. And I've tried to explain stuff to him, and he's like, it just doesn't get through to him. And that.
But
So
it's got to be harder on you because you now have to bridge all these songs and make a plot.
yeah,
You're not just writing from scratch.
and they had a vision.
Right.
I came in later, and now that vision's changed a lot,
Mm.
which is partially because of me, but partially because of necessity of what we're doing, and so that I don't want to screw. This is still his idea, and that's
His
the other
baby,
thing.
yeah.
It's his baby. But we met last week, and I was really nervous because I'm like, shit, I don't have a lot written. And then I started going through it, and he's like, oh my God, we have a story. And I'm like, oh my God, we do. Like, you don't even realize, like, I didn't realize I had a story until I like sat down with somebody else.
That's funny.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of writing a musical is so overwhelming to me. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Well,
You know, it's like,
he's the music guy, and to me, without the music, you know, I can't write music. I could never, but you know, I never wrote lyrics until, but even that, like he'll send me music and he'll tell me he'll put in fake lyrics but it's great because it gives me an idea of what he's thinking, what he wants, why he wants it. So then I just take him over, and a lot of times I keep lyrics, and he goes, wow, you kept that. I go, yeah, I got what you were saying. You just didn't make it rhyme. And yet, you know, so it's just been what a weird time in my life at 60 years old, dude, to be taking on so many. I mean, acting is old school to me, but it's new again.
Yeah, but going back to basically the beginning, because taking classes, it doesn't matter how good you are. You go to ground zero and you're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
You know, you're starting, you're new. You know, it's like a new season of like growing a flower or whatever. It's like a new season because you're as good as the person you're working with and the script you're working on.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter if you're Gary Oldman, but you have a shit script. You can just be Gary Oldman doing a shit script.
Yes. True. True. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody who's watching is going to care, but you know, it's funny. Everybody tells me that they really like when it's just you and me, and we don't.
Yeah, we do have because then we're not just putting on for what we think the guests to feed them.
Yeah.
We get to talk about our real lives a little more.
Yeah, like that selfish bastard Bartlett.
That son of a. He's so goddamn funny. So I was on the road with Kevin Flynn this weekend over Labor Day, and I mentioned that Bartlett was just on the podcast because he was asking about us, and he had so many funny Bartlett stories.
Really?
He was like, dude, when I was a young comic working in Boston, just trying to get started, Bartlett came to town, and he goes, he had seriously the greatest opening that I've ever seen, and it was like some crazy. I wish Bartlett was on so he could. It was like he tried to light a cigarette, and it took him so long to light a cigarette while he was talking to the audience.
Right.
That's how long ago it was. You could.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you can't do that now.
But then he talked about going on auditions, and like Bartlett would be there, and he would like walk out of the audition, and Bartlett would be sitting in the waiting room, and he was always so funny.
Yeah.
Like even like everybody else is going over their things, and Bartlett's making everybody laugh.
Yeah. I actually didn't know him well 20 years ago and was at an audition that he was at. And I was actually with Johnny Lampert. And Johnny knew us both. Johnny knew the both of us well. So and I'm like, holy crap, this is Rob Bartlett. I remember, and he was just so funny. And I'm at this audition, like freaking out about the audition, and Bartlett was just hysterical. He had everybody laughing in the waiting room. You know, are they ever going to go back? Well, I mean, I know there's a strike. Do you think when the strike ends, they'll go back to auditioning in person, or is it always going to be?
I think only callbacks will be in person.
So,
I think self-tape is going to be mandatory, I think, until you get a callback. And when you get a callback, you know, then it matters. But I can't see them ever justifying how much money it costs to rent the space, to bring somebody in, you know, for an entire day seeing people that they're probably not going to cast.
Does that mean we're all going to need a specific setup, or is it just put yourself on camera?
I think it's put yourself on camera, but I think there will be a standard that if you're not doing the standard, you're not going to get looked at seriously.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but I feel like, you know, everything's changed with the pandemic. I don't think there's going to be as much corporate stuff as there used to be, corporate meetings, because this works fine. So why am I going to fly out?
You know, to some degree, as an actor, it's probably going to be better, because I think about all the auditions I had to go into the city and do it were a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
And money.
How pissed off are you when you show up to an audition that you have to travel into the city, you pay for parking or you pay for whatever, and then you get there, you walk in, you read the script and go, I'm not even right for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do it because I'm here, but like, if I would have read this before I came in the city, I would have told my agent, like, I'm not right for this. Unless they asked for me, there's no reason to come in to read this part.
Yeah. So in a way, it may be better for the actor. I mean, you know, I remember getting phone calls 9, 10 o'clock at night. You got to be in the morning for a commercial and you're like, oh, come on, man. You know, I was just going to get drunk or whatever. I was just, or I got to work late and I got a gig and you know,
well, that's what always pissed me off is I'd be on the road all the time, and then the agents would call for an audition. I'd be like, I'm in Toledo.
Right.
And they're like, okay. And then, you know, after the third time they call and you're not around,
they're not calling.
You're never getting a call again.
Yeah. Yeah. But so from that end, I guess it's a good thing for actors.
Yeah.
But it's just. Okay.
I think so. I was just talking to a guy today about, he was talking about festivals and stuff, and he was talking about how old school, and, you know, he goes, it used to be like you show up to your office, there was a speakerphone in the middle, you'd pop on the speakerphone, there would be the core group of guys there, and they might be calling somebody from Vegas or LA. Whatever. He goes, now everything's on Zoom and nobody's on time because who cares? It's just on Zoom.
Yeah.
And he goes, but the world's never going to change back. So you might as well embrace it. Yeah.
That's a great point. The story of my life is when I hate something or disagree with something, I just can't just go, I got to embrace it. There's nothing I can do. And you know what I mean? I'm kind of happy we're having this conversation. I go, oh my God, it's terrible. And I go, well, wait a minute, it's not that bad. I don't have to leave Long Island to go audition for something.
Well, yeah, I got a question regarding the strike. I don't know if you guys are SAG or not, but
yeah.
You are. So because I would think, especially in Mark's case, because I mean, you touched upon it before that he's always doing so much. I didn't know if something like a writer strike and an actor strike gives Mark an opportunity now to pitch some of his stuff because there's nothing else available.
No.
So it doesn't work.
Right now,
nobody's working. Nobody's doing it.
And there's this whole thing too, where it's like, you know, we're on strike and all this stuff's happening. But if you're reading the trades, there's all kinds of deals being made with high-end people So
Yes,
they're
I've seen
still
that.
doing stuff. Money talks, you know.
Right.
It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
George Clooney's working on a project right now, like really,
Yeah.
he's the guy that really is he should be talking to the evil powers at the streaming services. He should be one of the people going after him, not out fucking working.
Yeah.
I agree.
I heard he
100%.
donated $1 million or something to the union for.
Probably. I mean, he is
So-
a good guy. I don't mean to trash him
Yeah. I mean, well, you
specifically,
did. There goes George Clooney as our guest.
but yeah, I guess maybe we can still get his aunt.
I knew his aunt.
Yeah.
I knew Rosemary Clooney. Not well, but I used to work at. It always comes back to this. I used to work at FAO Schwartz, and she used to come in all the time. She was a pisser of a woman. I mean, she reminded me of all my old Irish great aunts. Like she had that way, those old. They're from here. They're the first generation here, so they grew up with the Irish, and they're just boisterous and nobody got in their way. Nobody got in their way, and she was such a. You knew when Rosemary Clooney came in the room. Let's put it to you that way. You know what I mean? She just had a way about her. She was something. I hated that job, but boy, I met a lot of people doing that job. And
Hey, you got great stories now for
yeah,
me.
I do. I do.
There's that great clip on YouTube of her pouring that drink on what's the English guy's Oliver. He was a big actor from England in the
Oliver,
60s. I'm talking.
Tom Jones. Didn't he play Tom Oliver?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You know who I'm talking about. She's on the Tonight Show with him, and she pours a drink over his head.
What?
I don't know the story. Tell the story.
He's just talking about. He was basically just a chauvinist. Men, women are supposed to be in the kitchen making sandwiches type stuff. He was saying, and she just had enough and poured a drink over his head right there, sitting on
Oliver Reed.
Oliver Reed. That's it. Thank you.
He was in Tommy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did he really? No, I don't know this story.
Oh yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah, she just.
But that's her. That was I could see her doing that, man. She was a pip, man. In some ways, I think it's good then that from that perspective, it's like, hey, if you really want me, here's my tape.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story.
If you're going in for a callback and you're supposed to meet the other possible actor you're working with and all that, yeah, come in and be in person. But I mean, realistically, doing a reading from home is good. I've done live auditions where I was on a Zoom and the director and the producers were on the Zoom. And, you better have a good connection.
Yeah.
But it's the way the world is now. We're changing.
Why am I blanking on his name? Give me. I want to tell you a story, and I'm blanking on the comic's name.
Chris Christopherson. Bob Newhart.
He passed away. He used to do the Friars. Why am I he was a good friend of mine.
Don Rickles.
Pat Cooper.
No, young, my age.
Milton Berle.
Don Rickles.
You guys just keep saying the same names. No, he's my age. Pat Cooper.
Milton Berle.
Oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? He was a
Jason
lawyer.
Pollock asked me about Milton Berle today. Like, how old am I? That Jason Pollock had a question about Milton Berle, so he texted me. Hey, dude, I'm 40 years old. Why do I know this shit?
Can I just tell you? Just the idea of Jason Pollock, like I'm sitting here thinking, what was it that happened? What popped into Jason Pollock's head that caused him to go, I need to call Mark about Milton Berle. I could just see him.
He always texts me, can I ask you a weird question? I'm like, Jason, anything you ask is going to be weird.
It's going to be weird. we should have him back on. He was a great guest. Remember when what was he? He used to sit like with his eye. He'd do something with his eye. Or something. No, that was it.
Because he had a facial twitch. The pandemic gave him a facial twitch. So every time he was on a podcast, he'd
like, what are you doing? I miss those days a lot. I have to say, the one thing
to get on with like 5 comics,
and just laugh, God. And then when we had the British comics and all that, it was just God. Those were fun days, man.
They'll never take our calls now.
Oh, the British comics?
Yeah.
Why can't I think of his name? Help me out, Mark. He started out with me, my time. We were friends, and why am I blanking? And he died. He died in a hotel. He was a lawyer. No, the other
Greg
one.
Giraldo.
Bang. So back in the 90s, and he actually was on a TV show. They talked about about sitcoms and about comics on sitcoms. And he said that he alone destroyed the comics getting deals for sitcoms all on his own, which I think is really funny. He's like, no, it was totally me. Like once they gave me a contract and gave me a show and realized how really bad I am at acting, they realized we have to stop giving comics $1 million contracts. It was so funny the way he said it. Because that was you remember that boom in the 80s and 90s of anybody who had 10 minutes on Carson got a deal. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah. And they talked about how Montreal, they would give you holding deals just not to work with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't know what they wanted to do with you, but they were like, listen, we'll give you money. Just promise you're not going to work for other people.
Yeah.
Like, well, what's this money for? To just not work for anyone else.
Yeah.
Was it Gary Goldman was telling us that he would take the holding money so he could pay his rent, so then he could go out on the road? It paid for him to go out on the road when he was living in LA.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So anyway, so Greg's got this show. They're gonna give Greg a show. And Jeff Garland's wife, Marla, is an old friend of mine from theater back in the 80s. I mean, I think they're divorced now, but Marla was here in New York doing theater, and then she had done some casting, working for some casting agent, and she went back to Chicago and got into being a casting agent. And then she moved to LA and was working for a company. Anyway, long story short, that casting agent was in charge of Greg Giraldo's show. And there was a role for his best friend, and she thought I was right for it. And she called me. I hadn't talked to her in about 7 years. And she called me, and I'm like, I'm going, okay, well, she goes, this is probably 1993, 94. So it's a long time ago. She goes, you need to make a tape and send it out here, because I'm not going to make, I'm not going to have you fly out here and audition. So it's funny this is all what we're talking about. She's like, what do you mean make a tape? She goes, do you know anyone with a camera? And I go, well, my buddy's got like a camera like your father had. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to send you a monologue. I'm going to fax you a monologue. Find a spot, have your buddy film you. And my friend, Mike Veazey, Mike Veazey.
Yeah.
And my friend, Karen Calories, I think we were in Mike's basement or Karen's basement. We were in somebody's basement. And I had to do this monologue, and his friend was dumb. And I remember going, there is no way I'm even going to be looked at for this. Like, this is a grainy fucking camera. Like, who know, you know what I mean? Like this. And I did the monologue, and I had to send it to her. You know me, I know nothing technically. I think Mike did everything. And we
of
sent
course.
we sent it to Marla, and I didn't hear anything. And then I get a phone call, and she goes, "It's between you and another guy." And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "The part," and this is a regular part on a TV show. She goes, "It's between you and another guy," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
There's no chance
She
that
goes,
video I
"You
sent.
may have to fly out here. You may have to fly out here immediately." And I'm like, and I hadn't. I'm like, I have. This is like surreal. And they ended up going with the other guy. He was a comic. Can't remember his name. And one of the reasons they did was because I was in New York, they didn't want to deal with it. That's what she told me.
They filmed it in Chicago?
No, they filmed it in LA. This was, I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
So she went back to Chicago, then ended up in LA. So
Oh, okay.
I don't.
That's so weird that it's a guy from Queens that they're filming it the sitcom in Chicago.
No, it was in LA. So
Oh.
I don't really believe this. Like in my mind, this
ain't
is
real.
surreal. And the show ends up going on, and it bombed, and it went off the air. And I ran into Greg here. I had Governors about, I don't know, 3 years later. And I go, "Hey man." And I go, "From what I understand, I was up for your show." And he goes, "What?" I go, "I was up for the party, your best friend." And he goes, "I remember that." And I'm like, "What do you go?" He said, "I remember that." And I knew, he goes, "I was so glad they didn't give it to you." And I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because they wrote him off. They wrote him off the show." And I remember thinking, "Oh my God, if Richie Byrne had gotten this, he would have come out to LA thinking, oh, here we," and then it would have just, and I go, "If Richie Byrne had gotten this, they never would have written him off the show, dude."
I love it.
Greg's show?
Yeah. What was it called?
I have no idea. It was like, I know he played a lawyer in it, and I think he was the Spanish roots that he had and all that stuff. But did you look up his Wikipedia?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Common law?
Common law.
That's it?
That was it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Common law. I don't even think it lasted 13 episodes.
Speaking of lasting episodes,
Yeah.
Nine episodes,
episodes.
but 9 episodes, but 5 of them did not air.
So it lasted
Can you
4.
imagine?
That's,
You put all that work in, they're not even going to air them all.
that was the going thing back then, though. If you remember, they'd give you 4 episodes to, and if you didn't hit in 4 episodes, you were off the air.
That's how Seinfeld started.
Seinfeld, yeah. They kept putting, even though they just kept putting him on because it was the only way to keep him from going somewhere else, like Mark had talked about.
So that probably would have been you, right?
Yeah, he was, what was his name? Yeah, I guess you could put this up later.
God, Common Law is a very popular name for shows.
Why? Common Law?
Yeah.
I don't know the name. I don't recognize the name. He had it like
Oh, and Los Lobos did the theme.
Los Lobos, that's what it says. Yeah, but I don't know. I that was like kind of a surreal moment in my life that this woman who I hadn't seen in years is calling me going, you may have to fly out. And I'm like, what are you talking? Like it, and I probably did a good audition because I didn't for a minute believe anybody was going to watch it. You know what I mean? Like,
did you ever hear the story with James Gandolfini with the show The Office? When Steve Carell left, he was offered to replace Steve Carell, and he was going to take it. HBO paid Gandolfini like $1 million or something to not take the role.
The Office was before?
No, it was. Was actually The Sopranos was already over, but HBO still did not want him to do it, and they actually paid him money to not take the role, to replace Steve Carell. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Who replaced Steve Carell? I wasn't an Office guy. So.
Me neither.
I
I'm a
didn't
Gandolfini guy.
watch the American one.
You
I
know the
watched-
story about that Gandolfini went in and read for Tony and completely shit the bed.
Oh, is that right?
And
I
went
didn't-
home and called his agent and said, you gotta get me in there again. And they called Chase and they said, listen, he really, and he came in and nailed it. And that, because you know that David Chase wanted little Steven to play Tony. He wanted,
Really?
yeah,
Mhm.
he went to HBO and said, no, little Steven's going to play. And they were like, what? And he's like, no, he's going to be great. They're like, no, he isn't. He's never acted. He's a guitarist. He's not. And he was dead serious. He wanted little Steven to play the role. And then they were like, no. And he goes, you give him another role, but he's not playing Tony Soprano. Isn't that funny? It's like the opposite of The Godfather.
God.
Where the powers that be were going, you're not hiring what's his name?
Little Steve.
No, The Godfather.
Oh, Marlon Brando.
Brando?
Brando and I want to say Dustin Hoffman.
James Conn.
No, the lead.
Pacino.
Michael Pacino. What's wrong with me today?
How
God.
am I the one that knows the Godfather out of the three of us?
And so it's just funny that it was the powers that be with the Godfather, like, you are not casting these people. And he went, yes, I am. But HBO was like, you're not, little Steven's not playing Tony Soprano. It's not happening. And I'm sure that everybody in David Chase's life was going, yeah, they're right. You're not.
Well, hey, we should probably wrap here. This was
Yeah,
a great
wow.
episode, man. It was so good to catch up.
Yeah, I feel like we were just on a phone call for an hour.
I know. I looked at the clock and went, oh crap. Because
It
we
flew.
could probably sit and chat for another hour. You want to tell a joke?
Oh, I heard
Wanna
it
give
the
us-
other day, and I said, oh God, I gotta remember it, and I can't remember it now. You got one? This is the way we got to make this big because this is Tony's first joke.
Oh, it's going to be you're going to be very disappointed.
Oh,
I do have, all right. A snake.
Sounds like he's in bed.
True.
You're gonna be very disappointed.
I kill it those times. A snake walks into a bar. The bartender says, how'd you do that?
I was just about to say, how does a snake walk in? But folks,
Wow.
that was strange jokes and storytelling.
It was almost a perfect show.